What if I tell you that the real secret to instant financial abundance is not found in the stock market, in endless hustling, or in chasing opportunities that slip through your fingers, but rather in the quiet moment just before you fall asleep, when your mind is most impressionable and your imagination becomes the architect of your reality? And what if I tell you that Neville Goddard, one of the greatest teachers of the subconscious mind, insisted that the drowsy state is the golden key that unlocks the vault of your financial destiny? And imagine for a moment that every night as you close your eyes, you are actually scripting tomorrow's wealth, planting seeds in the soil of your subconscious that must sprout into visible money experiences in the days to come. And think about how every successful person who truly embodies prosperity seems to carry within them a story of certainty, as if they rehearsed their fortune long before it arrived, because in truth they did, though most of them never realized they were using the very principle Neville described as living in the end, which means falling asleep in the assumption that you already possess the thing you desire. And if your desire is financial abundance, then the last thought you entertain before drifting into sleep becomes a command to your subconscious to rearrange your world to reflect that assumption. And as the outer world obediently follows the inner world, your bank account, your business opportunities, and even the way people treat you begin to shift in alignment with your inner conviction. So the question you must begin asking yourself tonight is not whether you will ever become wealthy, but whether you are willing to practice the nightly discipline of imagining yourself already rich, already free, already living with money flowing to you in surprising and effortless ways. And although the average person drifts to sleep, worrying about bills, debts, and unmet obligations, you are about to learn how to reverse this deadly habit by using sleep itself as your ally, turning the bed into a workshop of wealth and the night into a quiet rehearsal of riches. Because what you repeatedly impress upon your subconscious becomes the script from which your life unfolds. And when you know this, you no longer feel trapped by the so-called external economy, because your real economy is internal, unshakable, and subject only to the visions you dare to sustain in the most powerful hours of the night. And therefore, when you lie down this evening, you will begin to treat the drowsy state as sacred, as the moment when the doors of wealth swing open and the treasures of abundance are handed to those who know how to assume possession of them in imagination. And by doing this consistently, you will discover that financial miracles are not random strokes of luck, but predictable outcomes of nightly rehearsals in consciousness. And if you will simply allow yourself to feel the truth of already having what you seek before sleep overtakes you, then money, opportunities, and resources will appear in the daylight hours as if drawn to you by an invisible current. And so, this is the beginning of the journey Neville wanted you to take. A journey where every night you travel inward to the world of imagination in order to awaken richer, freer, and more powerful in the world of facts. And while this may sound mystical at first, the truth will begin to reveal itself the moment you practice it. Because in the quiet darkness of your bedroom, you will sense that your inner world is more real than anything outside. And when you persist in this, wealth must come, not as a distant hope, but as an inevitable unfolding. And this is why sleep programming is not just a technique, but a doorway into instant financial abundance. A doorway you are now ready to step through with courage, clarity, and conviction. And as we continue this journey, you begin to realize that the very reason Neville Goddard emphasized the drowsy state, or what he called SATS, the state akin to sleep, is because in that delicate moment when the conscious mind loosens its grip and the subconscious stands open and receptive, whatever you choose to feed it becomes law. And in that instant, when your body relaxes and your breathing slows, you are no longer wrestling with logic, doubts, or the noise of the outside world. You are instead floating in the silence, where imagination rules supreme. And it is in that silence where wealth is born, not through toil or struggle, but through the inner conviction that you are already the prosperous one, already the one whose financial abundance overflows effortlessly. And when you learn to enter this drowsy state, deliberately, You gain the ability to bypass the resistance that normally sabotages your affirmations during the day. Because the sleepy mind does not argue, it simply accepts. And if what it accepts is the image of you with money flowing easily, with opportunities chasing you, with debts cleared and freedom established, then it has no choice but to push that reality into form. And think about how many people unknowingly misuse this powerful state by falling asleep with worry, anxiety, or lack on their mind, essentially programming themselves to repeat the same financial struggles day after day. But you are different now because you know the secret. You know that when you drift to sleep with the end firmly in mind, with the conviction that you are already in possession of your fortune, you are writing tomorrow's script in golden ink. And as Neville would say, the feeling of the wish fulfilled is the very substance that transforms imagination into fact. And so you must not only think but feel the joy of being wealthy as though it is happening now. Feel the relief of bills being paid, the excitement of abundance flowing in, the gratitude of freedom attained. Because when you persist in this nightly feeling, you are training your subconscious to build bridges of events, people, and circumstances that will carry you effortlessly into your new financial reality. And it will seem to others as though coincidences and chance encounters suddenly favor you, but you will know the truth, that the wealth was programmed into your subconscious during the sacred moments before sleep. And therefore, as you continue to use SATs, you are not just experimenting with a technique, you are reclaiming the original creative power you always had. The same power that designed your current financial state, but now consciously redirected toward riches and abundance. And as this becomes your nightly practice, the evidence will begin to show itself so unmistakably that you will no longer need convincing. Because you will see with your own eyes that the drowsy state is the master key to financial transformation. So now that you see why the drowsy state holds such unimaginable power, let us dive deeper into the reality that most people have unknowingly programmed themselves into financial lack. Because every night before sleep, they replay the same painful mental movies of unpaid bills, empty bank accounts, and fears about tomorrow. And in doing so, they are writing a script that their subconscious has no choice but to perform on the stage of life. But here is the liberating truth Neville Goddard wanted you to grasp. Just as you once unconsciously impressed the image of scarcity, you can now consciously overwrite it with the wealth blueprint you truly desire. And this is the essence of reprogramming limiting money beliefs before sleep. For when the conscious mind finally lets go and the subconscious is wide open, every thought, every image, and every emotional tone becomes a seed planted in fertile soil. And since the subconscious does not judge, question, or filter, it simply accepts the seed and begins to grow it into your lived reality. You must then take responsibility for being the gardener of your nightly imagination, planting thoughts of prosperity with deliberate care. And what makes this practice so transformative is that even if you have carried decades of financial struggle, the subconscious does not keep score of time. It only responds to the most dominant assumption you persist in at this very moment. So if tonight you fall asleep, not with fear, but with joy, not with worry, but with the satisfaction of being wealthy, the old beliefs begin to crumble, and the new blueprint takes root. And as you repeat this nightly practice, you will discover that the patterns of lack and limitation that once seemed so permanent lose their power. Because the subconscious is being reprogrammed to accept a new self-image. The self-image of someone who is wealthy, free, and effortlessly provided for. And as this new image strengthens, the external world will start reflecting it through unexpected income, opportunities you never considered, and doors opening where once there were only walls. Which means every night becomes an opportunity to shed the skin of scarcity and step into the clothing of abundance. Until eventually, you no longer even identify with the old story of financial struggle, because the subconscious has fully embraced the truth that you are the abundant one. And so the beauty of sleep programming is not that it fixes you, but that it reveals you were never broken, only misdirected. And once you redirect your nightly focus, abundance is not a distant dream, but an unfolding certainty that reshapes your waking hours in ways so seamless you forget how life ever felt otherwise. And as this new identity of abundance begins to settle into your subconscious through nightly practice, you will start to notice that wealth is not something you chase, but something you carry. Because the truth Neville Goddard revealed is that your financial life is simply a mirror of the wealth blueprint hidden deep within you. And the way you think about yourself before sleep is the exact way life will treat you when you wake. So if you fall asleep rehearsing lack, then lack dutifully appears in your experience. But if you fall asleep rehearsing wealth, then wealth must present itself in forms that sometimes look miraculous, though in reality they are just the natural reflection of the inner picture. And this is why Neville often said imagination creates reality, because what you repeatedly imagine becomes impressed upon the subconscious and then hardened into fact. And this blueprint you carry is not a vague wish or fleeting daydream, but a living design that instructs life how to shape itself around you. And when you consciously design that blueprint with images of abundance, you are no longer leaving your financial future to chance. You are deliberately writing the script of prosperity. And though some people spend years trying to change their circumstances without ever touching the blueprint inside, you will have discovered the shorter, surer path, because changing the inner design changes everything else automatically. And the beauty of sleep programming is that it allows you to install this wealth blueprint without strain, because in the drowsy state, the subconscious accepts the new pattern like a sponge soaking up water. And with each night, the impression grows stronger until the inner picture of yourself as wealthy feels more natural than the old identity of scarcity. And the moment it feels natural is the moment life begins to rearrange itself to prove you right. Because your world must always confirm the self-concept you hold. And therefore you will find yourself not only thinking differently about money, but also attracting new financial opportunities, making wiser decisions, and radiating the confidence of someone who knows abundance belongs to them. Which means the wealth blueprint is not an abstract theory, but the operating system of your financial reality. And if you guard it and nurture it each night before sleep, you will soon discover that abundance flows to you not as a reward, but as a reflection of who you have become within. And as you hold this truth firmly, the next step is to learn Neville's precise formula for assuming wealth so that sleep becomes not just rest, but a nightly initiation into a richer reality. So now that you understand the power of the wealth blueprint living inside you, it becomes absolutely essential to grasp Neville's simple yet profound formula. Because he never left this as some vague mystical idea, but gave a clear method that anyone could follow. And the formula can be summed up in 3 steps. Assume it, sleep on it, and then wake up wealthy. For the key lies not in effort, but in assumption. And assumption means that before sleep, you deliberately take on the feeling that your financial desire is already yours, not tomorrow, not someday, but now. And you let that assumption saturate your imagination until it feels as real as the pillow beneath your head. And when you sleep on it, you are sealing the impression into your subconscious, which works tirelessly through the night to bring about outer conditions that align with your inner conviction. And when you wake up wealthy, it does not mean that every single detail of your financial dream is instantly visible, but it means you rise into a world that immediately begins to respond to the inner command, opening channels of income, arranging circumstances, and presenting you with opportunities that had previously been hidden. And so the waking hours become the stage where the play you wrote before sleep unfolds in sequence. And the more consistently you repeat this nightly process, the more natural the state of wealth becomes, until it no longer feels like a practice, but simply who you are. And at that point, the external must conform, because the inner assumption has been fully accepted as truth. And Neville would remind you that this is not about forcing, straining, or waiting impatiently, but about assuming the end with such ease that you drift into sleep, carrying the conviction that it is already done. And because the subconscious is the womb of creation, it delivers what you have planted without fail. So the critical shift is to stop asking, when will it come, and begin affirming, it is already mine. And as you hold that state before sleep, you live the joy of the wish fulfilled long before it takes outer form. And in doing so, you collapse the distance between desire and fulfillment, for the only real distance ever existed in consciousness. And so when you practice this formula night after night, you will discover that wealth appears not as a distant dream, but as an immediate reality taking shape all around you. And once you have mastered the assumption, the next stage is to transform those nightly visions into vivid inner movies that carry you beyond words into experiences so real that your subconscious cannot tell the difference between imagination and fact. And once you have embraced Neville's formula of assumption and sleep, the natural progression is to learn how to turn that inner assumption into moving pictures that play on the screen of your imagination. Because while words and affirmations are powerful, the subconscious mind responds even more deeply to sensory-rich experiences. And that is why turning nighttime visualization into cash flow is not just poetic, but practical. For when you lie in bed and let your body sink into relaxation, your task is to construct a short but vivid inner movie that feels as if it were happening now, and it does not need to be complicated or lengthy. It can be as simple as seeing yourself opening a bank notification that shows unexpected money has been deposited, or perhaps feeling the texture of crisp new bills in your hand, or even hearing the congratulations of a loved one saying, "I'm so proud of your success." And the beauty of these movies is that they bypass the rational mind and slip straight into the subconscious because they carry the emotional signature of reality. And as you play this inner scene over and over in the drowsy state, you are essentially giving your subconscious a reel to project into your waking life. And because the subconscious cannot distinguish between what is vividly imagined and what is physically experienced, it treats your inner movie as fact and sets in motion the invisible processes that draw corresponding circumstances, opportunities, and money into your experience. And Neville would insist that you repeat the same short scene each night until it feels natural, because repetition impresses it deeper into the subconscious until it no longer feels like acting but living. And once that feeling settles, the outer world must adjust itself to match. So as you fall asleep, you are no longer a passive dreamer, but a deliberate director of your financial reality, creating cash flow not through restless activity, but through calm conviction. And what begins as imagination soon becomes so tangible in your life that you will wonder whether you dreamt it or lived it first. And that is the secret. The dream always precedes the fact. And when you use sleep to rehearse prosperity, you are simply accelerating the timetable, collapsing delays, and commanding wealth to appear through the invisible law that governs all creation. And once you experience this even once, you will never again doubt that imagination, especially in the drowsy state, is the true currency of financial abundance. And so the journey deepens, because the next step is to align your nightly movies with affirmations that act as keys, short phrases that lock in the wealth state so firmly that nothing can shake it as you drift into sleep. And as you become more comfortable crafting those vivid inner movies of prosperity, you will soon discover that words, when chosen carefully and felt deeply, act like keys that lock the scene into your subconscious, which is why Neville Goddard often spoke about the power of affirmations when used in the drowsy state. Because unlike random affirmations repeated mechanically in the middle of the day, the ones whispered or silently felt before sleep penetrate directly into the depths of your being. And so when you choose affirmations that work best in the sleep state, you must ensure they are short, simple, and emotionally charged. For example, phrases such as, "I am wealthy now," "Money flows to me easily," or "I live in abundance," are not just empty statements, but living seeds. And as you lie there hovering between wakefulness and sleep, you repeat them, not as if you are trying to convince yourself, but as if they are already true. And in that half-asleep state, your subconscious does not argue or resist. It simply absorbs. And the emotional charge you attach to those words becomes the water that nourishes the seed, allowing it to take root in the fertile soil of imagination. And when you combine this with the inner movie, you are essentially building a structure of belief so strong that the outer world must conform. Because your subconscious always outpictures whatever it is most impressed with. And this is why people who fall asleep thinking, "I never have enough money," find themselves reliving the same cycles of lack. But when you replace that thought with, "I am always provided for," your world shifts to reflect that conviction. Sometimes in ways that defy logic, yet always in ways that affirm the truth you carried into sleep. And as you make this your nightly ritual, the affirmations begin to seep into your waking hours as well. So you carry a subtle confidence and expectation of abundance throughout the day. And soon, you notice synchronicities like unexpected payments, surprising opportunities, or even small wins that reassure you the process is working. And over time, those small wins snowball into larger manifestations, until your financial reality mirrors the wealth you affirmed night after night. Which proves that the subconscious does not distinguish between a truth imposed upon it through repetition and a truth imposed upon it through experience. It simply brings forth whatever is most dominant, and therefore, when your last thought before sleep is a declaration of wealth, your first experience upon waking is the beginning of that wealth unfolding. And so the marriage of affirmations and the sleep state becomes one of the most practical tools for transforming your finances. And yet, as the process deepens, you will realize that even the world of dreams that follows your affirmations carries hidden clues, messages, and signs that your financial abundance is moving closer to physical reality. And as you continue to saturate your subconscious with affirmations and vivid inner movies before sleep, you will begin to notice that your dreams themselves start to shift. And while most people dismiss dreams as random stories produced by a restless mind, Neville Goddard understood that they often carry reflections, symbols, and previews of what the subconscious is in the process of birthing. So when you are programming financial abundance before sleep, and you suddenly find yourself dreaming of handling large sums of money, celebrating freedom, or even experiencing symbolic representations, like walking into a grand home or receiving unexpected gifts, you must recognize these not as empty illusions, but as signs that your subconscious has accepted the seed of wealth, and the dream world is beginning to echo the assumption back to you. And what is fascinating is that the subconscious always communicates in the language of imagery and feeling. So sometimes the dreams may not appear as literal money, but as situations that embody abundance, freedom, or generosity. And this is why you must pay attention to the feeling tone of your dreams. Because if you wake up with a sense of victory, relief, or joy, it is an indication that your inner world is aligning with your financial desires. And while skeptics might argue that dreams are meaningless, you will see through experience that they often foreshadow real changes in your outer life. Because the subconscious always works in patterns, first presenting them in imagination and dream before crystallizing them in fact. And so when you notice your dreams shifting toward abundance, you can rest assured that you are on the right track, for the inner reality is already taking shape, and soon the outer will follow. And if you continue to feed the subconscious with nightly affirmations and vivid imagery, these dreams become more consistent, serving as checkpoints of your progress, confirming that the wealth state is being impressed. And as you learn to trust these signs, you also cultivate patience and confidence, knowing that the manifestation is unfolding invisibly but inevitably. And thus, dreams become both the mirror and the messenger, assuring you that sleep programming is not just theory but a living process that rewires the very foundation of your financial life. And once you see dreams as proof rather than fantasy, your faith in the method deepens, which empowers you to move to the next step. Falling asleep not only with affirmations and images, but with the genuine feeling of already being rich, which is the essence of Neville's teachings, and the catalyst that transforms imagination into tangible wealth. And as you deepen your practice, the next transformative step is learning how to fall asleep, fully immersed in the feeling of being rich. Because Neville always emphasized that imagination must be accompanied by emotion, for the subconscious responds not to mere thoughts but to the intensity of the feelings you attach to them. And so, it is not enough to picture money in your mind. You must feel the relief, excitement, and joy as though it is already yours. And this feeling becomes the bridge that carries your nightly rehearsal into waking reality. And imagine yourself sinking into your pillow with a heart full of gratitude, envisioning bills already paid, doors of opportunity wide open, and the effortless flow of resources surrounding you. And as you allow yourself to linger in this emotional state, the subconscious begins to accept it as undeniable fact. Because to it, feelings are more convincing than logic or evidence. And the beauty of doing this as you drift into sleep is that you bypass the conscious doubts and fears that usually resist change. So your inner world begins to rewrite itself without struggle. And the longer you maintain the sensation of wealth while your body relaxes, the stronger the impression becomes. And soon it feels almost natural to carry that sense of abundance into the hours of rest. And what makes this method extraordinary is that it allows you to live the reality you desire before it manifests externally, creating a feedback loop where your emotions and subconscious drive circumstances to match. And you will notice subtle shifts, small windfalls, unexpected opportunities, or simple confirmations that reassure you the process is working. And as you continue to practice, your dreams will reinforce the feeling of wealth. Your thoughts during the day will reflect confidence and ease. And the world will begin to respond as if it had no choice but to mirror your inner state. And this is why Neville insisted on not just imagining but feeling the wish fulfilled. For it is in the emotional certainty that creation takes form. And when you combine this with consistent nightly practice, you create a momentum so powerful that the manifestation of financial abundance becomes inevitable. And as your mastery grows, you will realize that sleep is no longer merely rest, but a sacred workshop where your future riches are rehearsed, refined, and delivered invisibly, preparing you to awaken each morning already living the truth you planted the night before. And as you master the art of falling asleep in the feeling of wealth, it becomes crucial to understand why Neville emphasized living in the end, especially at bedtime, because this principle transforms your nightly practice from wishful thinking into a powerful act of creation. And when you live in the end, you are not imagining the process of becoming wealthy, struggling to achieve goals, or hoping for money to appear, but rather you are assuming the state of already having arrived, fully immersed in the reality of your fulfilled desire. And the reason bedtime magnifies this effect is that the conscious mind is quiet, the senses are relaxed, and the subconscious is wide open, receptive to every nuance of your imagined state. And so, when you close your eyes and see yourself already living in abundance, hearing the sounds of prosperity, feeling the comfort of financial freedom, and sensing the joy and security of wealth, the subconscious treats this as undeniable fact, and it immediately begins to orchestrate circumstances, events, and people that reflect the inner conviction. And moreover, because you are living in the end, rather than projecting a future that has not yet arrived, you bypass the inner conflicts, doubts, and limiting beliefs that normally sabotage manifestation during waking hours. And as the night progresses, these impressions sink deeper into your being, solidifying the identity of someone who naturally attracts money, opportunities, and success. And when you wake, even small events will appear as evidence that your inner assumption is shaping reality. And the more consistently you rehearse the end state at bedtime, the faster the outer world aligns with your inner world, until the distinction between imagination and reality becomes almost imperceptible. And it is in this seamless merging that the true power of sleep programming lies, because creation no longer feels forced but inevitable, as if life itself conspired to confirm the truth you carry within. And as you repeat this nightly process, your self-concept shifts from scarcity to abundance, and your outer world becomes a mirror reflecting the inner reality you assumed before sleep. And what begins as a quiet, private practice transforms into a living demonstration that when you live in the end, wealth does not chase you. You simply awaken into it, fully provided for, fully recognized, and fully empowered, which sets the stage for the next level, learning how to erase daily money failures with revision at night so that every setback becomes a stepping stone rather than a limitation. And as you embrace the principle of living in the end each night, you will soon encounter another transformative practice Neville taught, revision, which allows you to erase daily money failures before sleep. Because while your subconscious is powerful, it is also impressionable, and every unresolved disappointment, mistake, or missed opportunity carries an energy that can block the flow of abundance if left uncorrected. And revision works by mentally replaying the events of your day. But instead of dwelling on lack, worry, or regret, you imagine the day unfolding perfectly in accordance with your desires. And for instance, if a payment was delayed, a business deal fell through, or you overspent, you mentally rewrite the scene so that everything aligns with financial success, satisfaction, and abundance. And as you do this in the drowsy state before sleep, the subconscious no longer holds the vibration of failure or limitation, but instead accepts the revised version as truth. And when this revised reality is impressed upon it, the inner blueprint of wealth remains unchallenged and free to orchestrate opportunities without interference. And the subtle but profound shift occurs because the subconscious cannot distinguish between actual events and vividly imagined alternatives. It simply responds to the strongest impression. And as you make revision a nightly habit, you begin to notice that what once felt like setbacks are no longer capable of derailing your progress, because they have been neutralized at their source, within the mind. And moreover, this process strengthens your faith in the method, because you witness events that would have frustrated or delayed you now unfolding smoothly, as if life itself has been corrected to match your inner vision. And over time, revision trains you to stop clinging to past mistakes, frees your imagination to create without fear, and reinforces the understanding that your financial reality is entirely a reflection of the inner story you choose to live. And when combined with affirmations, inner movies, and the feeling of the wish fulfilled, revision ensures that no negative trace lingers to counteract the abundance you are programming. And this makes the nights a powerful arena of creation, a space where every imagined victory, every felt sensation of wealth, and every rewritten event collaborates to build the unstoppable momentum of your financial life, preparing you for the next essential practice: cultivating gratitude before sleep to anchor abundance even more deeply into your subconscious and magnify its manifestation in waking life. And as you integrate revision into your nightly practice, the next step Neville emphasized is cultivating gratitude before sleep. Because gratitude is the emotional amplifier that signals to the subconscious that abundance is already present. And when you feel genuine appreciation for the money, opportunities, and resources you already have, even if they appear small or incomplete, you are creating a fertile environment for more to flow effortlessly. And the act of giving thanks at night transforms your focus from lack to fulfillment, shifting your vibration so the subconscious can attract circumstances that match the feeling of plenty. And it is not about pretending you have more than you do, but about sincerely acknowledging every form of provision, past success, unexpected assistance, or even the lessons learned from financial challenges. And as you lie in bed reflecting on these blessings, you let the feeling expand until it saturates your body and mind, sending a clear signal to your subconscious that you are aligned with the state of abundance. And this emotional saturation is far more powerful than mere thinking or intellectual acknowledgement, because the subconscious responds to the intensity of feeling, not the logic of the statement. And moreover, gratitude creates an inner harmony that relaxes the mind, quiets resistance, and primes the subconscious to accept the wealth you are impressing upon it through your inner movies and affirmations. And over time, this consistent nightly gratitude transforms your self-concept, making abundance not just a possibility but an expectation. And as you awaken, even small surprises or unexpected opportunities feel like natural extensions of the thankful state you carried into sleep, reinforcing the loop of manifestation. And by combining gratitude with revision, living in the end, vivid imagination, and the feeling of being rich, you build a multi-layered approach that ensures every part of your inner world is working in unison to attract financial success. And the subtle yet undeniable effect is that money, resources, and opportunities begin to flow with increasing ease and consistency. And this is why Neville taught that gratitude is not merely polite acknowledgement, but a critical tool in the architecture of your dreams, preparing you to move into the next step, overcoming insomnia and money worries, so that the nights themselves become your allies in manifesting effortless abundance. And as you continue to refine your nightly wealth practice, it becomes essential to address one of the most common obstacles to sleep programming: insomnia and money worries. Because no matter how vividly you imagine abundance or how sincerely you cultivate gratitude, if your mind is restless or anxious, the subconscious cannot fully absorb the impressions you are trying to plant. And this is why Neville stressed the importance of calming the mind before sleep, transforming the bed from a battlefield of worries into a sanctuary of creative power. And you begin by acknowledging your concerns without resistance, allowing yourself to release them consciously, imagining each problem dissolving like mist while you maintain the inner sensation of already having what you desire. And you might visualize bills being paid, debts cleared, and financial opportunities appearing effortlessly. Letting the feeling of relief and satisfaction saturate your consciousness as you lie down. And if intrusive thoughts arise, gently return to the feeling of abundance, because the subconscious responds to persistence and emotional intensity more than to intellectual force. And by practicing deep, rhythmic breathing or soft mental repetition of your affirmations, you create a state of inner calm that not only promotes restful sleep, but also ensures the subconscious is fully receptive to your nightly programming. And gradually, insomnia loses its grip, because your nervous system associates bedtime with relaxation and expansion rather than worry and resistance. And as you master this, even stressful days no longer prevent the subconscious from receiving your wealth blueprint. And you will notice that the longer you persist in this practice, the more effortless sleep becomes, and the more powerfully your inner movies, affirmations, and gratitude take root. And over time, the night itself transforms into an active participant in your financial transformation, preparing you to step even deeper into Neville's teachings by understanding the role of imagination in dreamtime abundance, where your subconscious begins orchestrating events in ways that feel both magical and perfectly natural, ultimately ensuring that each night becomes a deliberate, potent rehearsal of the wealthy life you are destined to live. And as you settle into the practice of calming the mind and releasing money worries before sleep, you will begin to see the profound role imagination plays in shaping dreamtime abundance. Because Neville insisted that imagination is the true creative force. And when applied deliberately in the drowsy state, it does not merely entertain fantasies, but constructs the blueprint for your waking reality. And in this delicate balance between wakefulness and sleep, you can direct your imagination to orchestrate financial experiences with remarkable precision, seeing, hearing, and feeling scenes of wealth as if they are happening in real time. And the subconscious, which cannot distinguish between vivid imagination and literal experience, accepts these scenarios as truth and immediately begins aligning circumstances, opportunities, and people to reflect the inner reality you hold. And the beauty of this process is that it bypasses resistance, logic, and doubt, because in the half-sleep state your mind is like soft clay, ready to be molded by the impressions you deliver. And whether you picture unexpected payments, lucrative contracts, or the effortless flow of resources, each detail matters, not for accuracy, but for the emotional certainty it generates. And as you repeat this practice nightly, your imagination becomes a rehearsal room where your financial victories are staged, felt, and anchored. And soon, what was once only a dream begins to ripple outward into your waking world, appearing as synchronicities, inspired ideas, and new avenues for income. And you will notice that subtle nudges, coincidences, and encounters start confirming the inner scenes you play before sleep, reinforcing your faith in the method and strengthening your ability to assume the end with even greater conviction. And as this skill develops, you realize that imagination is not a passive pastime, but the active architect of your life, capable of transforming scarcity into abundance and limitation into opportunity. And the more consistent and emotionally charged your nightly imagery, the faster your external world must adapt to match, creating a seamless flow where your inner state dictates your material experience. And in this way, sleep becomes not only a time of rest, but the laboratory of manifestation, where imagination, feeling, and subconscious acceptance converge to produce financial outcomes that once seemed impossible, preparing you to integrate these skills with deliberate sleep rituals that align every part of your being with prosperity and abundance. And as you become more proficient in directing your imagination during the drowsy state, it becomes essential to establish consistent sleep rituals that align every aspect of your being with prosperity. Because the subconscious responds not only to mental images and feelings, but also to the cues and habits that surround your nightly practice. And when you create a sacred sequence before bed, dimmed lights, calming music, deep breaths, reviewing affirmations, and replaying vivid inner movies, you are signaling to the mind and body that this is the time for wealth programming. And the subconscious, which thrives on patterns, immediately recognizes these cues as the gateway to abundance. And the more deliberate and emotionally resonant these rituals are, the more effective your programming becomes, because each element reinforces the others, creating a synergistic environment where the impression of financial success takes root effortlessly. And even small details matter. The way you settle into bed, the tone of your affirmations, the emotions you carry into the night, all of them contribute to the strength of your subconscious acceptance. And over time, these rituals form a reliable bridge between conscious intention and subconscious execution, ensuring that each night becomes a powerful rehearsal of the wealthy life you are determined to live. And as you repeat this practice, the body and mind begin to associate sleep with abundance, creating a natural expectancy of prosperity that permeates your waking hours. And even if challenges arise during the day, your subconscious continues to work quietly in the background, orchestrating opportunities, resources, and unexpected windfalls that align with the inner blueprint you reinforced before sleep. And this is why Neville emphasized that wealth is not built in sporadic bursts of effort, but through consistent, intentional, and emotionally charged nightly practices, because the drowsy state magnifies everything you impress upon it. And when these rituals become habitual, manifestation accelerates. Doors that once seemed closed now open with ease, and life begins to reflect the certainty you carry within. And in this way, sleep becomes a trusted ally, a partner in creation, and a laboratory where your financial dreams are not only imagined but solidified, preparing you to witness the real-life stories of people who have applied these principles and seen money appear almost overnight, reinforcing your faith and inspiring deeper commitment to the practice. And as you internalize the power of these nightly rituals, it becomes even more inspiring to observe real-life examples of people who have manifested wealth almost overnight through sleep programming. Because while theory is essential, witnessing evidence that the subconscious truly obeys the assumptions impressed upon it reinforces faith and commitment. And Neville often shared stories of ordinary individuals who, by falling asleep in the feeling of their wish fulfilled and repeating small, vivid scenes of abundance, suddenly experienced unexpected checks, windfalls, promotions, or lucrative opportunities. And these manifestations were not accidents or luck, but the logical outworking of a mind that had been consciously directed in the hours of rest. And the lesson here is that wealth is a natural consequence when imagination, emotion, and consistency converge within the receptive subconscious. And by studying these examples, you begin to recognize patterns. The deliberate focus on what is desired, the emotional conviction that it is already achieved, and the nightly practice that allows the subconscious to orchestrate events without interference from conscious doubt. And as you see these ordinary people shift their financial realities, you realize that your own current circumstances are not fixed, that the same principles apply to you, and that the key difference between those who succeed and those who fail is not external opportunity, but inner assumption. And even minor daily practices, when performed before sleep with feeling and clarity, compound over time, producing results that can feel sudden, miraculous, or almost effortless. And as these stories accumulate in your awareness, your belief strengthens, your expectations rise, and your confidence in the process grows. And you start noticing subtle synchronicities in your own life, small payments, unexpected offers, intuitive insights, that confirm the subconscious is actively responding to your nightly programming. And with each affirmation, inner movie, and feeling state, you are joining a lineage of creators who understand that sleep is not merely for rest, but a deliberate rehearsal of wealth. And the more you commit to this process, the more undeniable the results become. And eventually, what once seemed improbable becomes routine, demonstrating vividly that the principles Neville taught are not abstract theory, but living, practical methods capable of transforming any financial life into one of effortless abundance, preparing you to explore how morning experiences mirror the work done at night, and why waking reality inevitably reflects your nightly assumptions. And as you begin to notice the subtle shifts in your waking life, it becomes evident that morning reality is simply the outer reflection of the inner work you performed the night before. Because the subconscious, having been impressed with vivid imagery, feelings, and assumptions during sleep, immediately begins to align circumstances, people, and opportunities to match the state you rehearsed. And the moment you open your eyes, you may notice small confirmations, a phone call, an unexpected payment, a new idea, or even a sense of ease that was absent before. And while these may seem coincidental at first, you will soon recognize them as the natural consequences of your nightly practice. And the fascinating part is that the subconscious never distinguishes between imagined experiences and actual events. So the reality you experience in the morning is the tangible evidence that the inner blueprint of wealth is already in motion. And as this continues consistently, the flow of abundance begins to feel inevitable, because your environment begins to mirror your assumptions before you have even consciously acted on them. And even challenges that arise during the day no longer carry the weight of fear or scarcity, because your subconscious has already organized a pathway around them, and the outer world responds to the inner certainty you cultivated while falling asleep. Which means that waking life becomes a living testament to the power of your imagination, emotion, and nightly discipline. And as you carry this awareness forward, your confidence grows, your decisions become more aligned with abundance, and opportunities that once seemed distant or improbable now appear as natural extensions of your inner state. And over time, you will notice that the difference between those who struggle and those who prosper lies not in effort or intelligence, but in the consistency of assumption and the emotional fidelity maintained during sleep. And this understanding reinforces the importance of nightly repetition, because each night you are essentially programming the day to follow the trajectory you desire. And when you internalize this principle fully, you begin to realize that every morning is a reflection of the imagination exercised the night before. Every coincidence is confirmation, and every step forward is proof that the subconscious operates faithfully on the instructions you provide while resting, preparing you to combine this practice specifically with business, career, or financial goals in a deliberate way to accelerate results. And now that you fully grasp how your mornings reflect the nightly work of your subconscious, it becomes crucial to see how SATS, Neville's sleep-awake think state, can be applied directly to your business, career, or financial goals. Because imagination alone is not enough if it is vague or unfocused. And when you consciously direct your inner movies, feelings, and affirmations towards specific outcomes, whether it's a promotion, a lucrative client, a profitable investment, or a new revenue stream, you are giving your subconscious a precise blueprint to orchestrate reality. And the beauty of using SATS in this way is that your subconscious moves faster than conscious effort, arranging people, opportunities, and circumstances in alignment with the scenario you rehearsed before sleep. And the more detailed and emotionally charged your visualization, the more the outer world must conform, because the subconscious always mirrors the strongest inner impression. And as you practice this consistently, you will notice that doors begin to open effortlessly. Emails arrive at the perfect moment, negotiations unfold favorably, and ideas or connections present themselves as if by magic. And what makes this method extraordinary is that it removes the struggle from the process of achieving financial goals. Because the subconscious handles the unseen logistics, while you maintain the feeling of already possessing the desired outcome. And the process is not about forcing results, but about assuming your end state so completely that action, intuition, and opportunity naturally flow into place. And you begin to see that your conscious effort is now supported by invisible forces that operate with precision and efficiency. And even challenges that arise seem manageable, because your inner certainty keeps you aligned with the reality you intend to create. And over time, using SATs in combination with nightly rituals, vivid inner movies, and emotional conviction transforms not just isolated outcomes, but your entire approach to money, career, and business, making success feel inevitable, effortless, and natural. And as you witness these results accumulating, your belief strengthens, your imagination sharpens, and your subconscious becomes a trusted partner in manifesting the wealth you desire, paving the way for the next step. Breaking generational poverty cycles through consistent sleep programming. And as you begin to experience the tangible results of deliberate sleep programming, it becomes clear that this method has the extraordinary potential to break generational poverty cycles. Because the subconscious mind does not only reflect your personal beliefs, but also inherited patterns. And many of the limitations you may have carried for decades are the result of family narratives, cultural scarcity, or repeated experiences of lack. Yet Neville taught that these patterns are not fixed, and by consistently impressing the subconscious with the state of already being wealthy during the drowsy state, you begin to overwrite old inherited assumptions with a new identity of abundance. And this is revolutionary because it demonstrates that financial freedom is not solely dependent on education, opportunity, or external circumstances, but on the inner world you cultivate before sleep. And when you repeat nightly the feelings of ease, sufficiency, and prosperity, the subconscious gradually replaces scarcity-based programs with wealth-based ones, affecting not only your life, but also the energetic environment around you, subtly influencing relationships, decisions, and even the expectations of those who witness your transformation. And as this new pattern solidifies, the limitations that once seemed permanent begin to crumble, allowing you to step into a lifestyle of effortless financial flow. And the beauty of this process is that it does not require external struggle or force. It simply relies on the faithful operation of the subconscious when impressed with vivid, emotionally charged assumptions. And over time, the effects compound, creating a legacy of abundance that can ripple through generations, breaking cycles that have persisted unchallenged for decades. And as you continue this disciplined nightly practice, you will notice your confidence, decision-making, and intuition all improve, guiding you naturally toward opportunities and resources that align with your inner wealth identity. And what begins as a personal transformation eventually becomes a collective one, demonstrating that the power to redefine financial destiny lies within the quiet, deliberate, and imaginative hours before sleep. And when fully embraced, this practice ensures that the wealth you manifest is not just temporary, but permanent, anchored in the subconscious and continually reinforced, preparing you to enter the final stage of this journey, where you learn to live in permanent abundance consciousness and sustain the wealth state effortlessly in every waking moment. And now, having mastered the principles, techniques, and nightly rituals of sleep programming, it is time to integrate them fully so that you can live in permanent abundance consciousness. Because true wealth is not simply a matter of external accumulation, but a state of being that must be continuously maintained within the mind and heart. And Neville taught that when the subconscious is consistently impressed with the feeling of the wish fulfilled, this state becomes your default reality, influencing not only financial outcomes but every aspect of life. And as you rise each morning with the inner conviction that you are already wealthy, free, and provided for, your choices, actions, and perceptions naturally align with that reality, reinforcing the identity you have cultivated in imagination. And over time, this internal state generates a magnetic pull that draws money, opportunities, relationships, and resources effortlessly toward you, because the outer world cannot help but reflect the inner state of certainty and abundance. And the key to sustaining this lies in the nightly repetition of your rituals, inner movies, affirmations, feelings of wealth, gratitude, and revision, which continually nourish the subconscious, keeping it aligned with your desires. And as you carry this consciousness into daily life, challenges lose their power to derail you, setbacks become temporary illusions, and every circumstance bends to accommodate the state you maintain. And the remarkable realization is that abundance is no longer something you pursue or hope for, It simply exists as the natural extension of your inner world. And the more faithfully you practice, the more effortless and inevitable this becomes, until wealth, freedom, and opportunity are as normal and natural to you as breathing. And you will find that your external reality increasingly mirrors your nightly rehearsals, presenting situations that confirm your assumptions in ways that feel almost miraculous, yet are simply the faithful response of a subconscious fully aligned with your vision. And this is the culmination of Neville's teachings, that by consciously designing your inner life in the drowsy state, consistently impressing it with the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and integrating gratitude, revision, and imagination, you can achieve not just temporary prosperity, but permanent abundance. And the final truth you awaken to is that wealth is not a destination, but a natural condition of a mind trained to live in the end, making every night a deliberate act of creation, and every day a living proof of the limitless potential you carry within.